In neighboring Syria, rebels launched a major assault. They targeted a government-held city on one of the main highways in western Syria. Over the last couple of weeks, rebels have made their biggest advances in months. The increased fighting, despite a Turkey-Russia brokered ceasefire in December, comes as a new round of UN-led peace talks is underway in Geneva. UN Special Envoy to Syria welcomed the Syrian delegation.
I welcome the Syrian delegation. They are always welcome to the UN. Thank you. Thank you.
The talks are expected to last until April 1st, and they will focus on a draft new constitution and counter-terrorism. The Syria civil war is now in its 7th year, and it's been called the worst man-made disaster since World War II. Peace talks, as we mentioned, are underway, but will anything come out of them this time around? For more on this, we have Ammar Waqqaf joining us from Geneva. He is a political analyst and director of Gnosos, a group which focuses on Syria and the Middle East. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's talk about this latest round of talks coming amid fresh fighting in Syria. Any optimism at all that we could see some sort of breakthrough here?
Well, there isn't much optimism. I mean, the atmosphere here is that of, at best, a modest progress that could be achieved. What has been achieved so far is that everybody has started coming to such negotiations without saying, I would come or I wouldn't come unless. So the process itself has seemed to have consolidated somewhat, which is a progress in its own right. But we are way off, discussing major issues in earnest. There are so many differences between the parties. Everyone would like to focus on something different. The opposition, the main opposition figures would like to, start with the political transition talks, whilst the government is very much interested in talking about terrorism. They think, the government that is, that the latest attacks in eastern Damascus, in northern Hama, have been instigated by regional powers. There has been a tweet by the vice chair of the police and national security in Dubai warning President Assad that he would face some trouble, his army would face some trouble, and that he should, try to make amends with the opposition, which was interpreted in Damascus as a threat. So this is the atmosphere at the moment.
Let's look at something that was actually agreed upon. How would you characterize the current ceasefire that was brokered by Russia and Turkey 3 months ago? Where does it stand, do you think?
Well, it stood a great deal until a few days back when somehow everybody decided to go under the umbrella of Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda affiliated, or Al-Qaeda branch in Syria, that is, and launch attacks. Some of them believe that putting some pressure on the government or mounting military pressure on the government would flex their muscles in the negotiations or so. And others basically believe that there is only one way to do it, which is to continue fighting, and these are the ideologues and the Muslim extremists. So there has been some sort of, interests joining in between them or, crossing. But at the end of the day, we can say that the ceasefire has largely collapsed. One reason being is that since the ceasefire was announced, the rebel groups basically split into two main groups. One that is willing, probably trying to or able to go into the political process. These are brokered by or through Turkey, and these are the ones who went to Astana and favored some political solution, in a sense saying enough is enough. And there are the ideologues, the Muslim extremists. This is the second branch. What has happened is that the extremists have been driving through with all these battles, in a sense undermining the legitimacy of the other party, so the other party had to join. So now we don't have much of a ceasefire, unfortunately.
Let's look at the people on the ground. According to the United Nations, hundreds of thousands of Syrians are just weeks away from starvation. Do you think that something could get worked out to allow more humanitarian aid into those areas that have been cut off by fighting? This is an issue that has continued to come up.
Well, this is mainly concerning the east of Damascus situation, where the rebels and Al Qaeda groups decided to take up arms, which complicated a lot the passage for delivering aid to eastern Damascus. We hope that this fighting would end soon, and fronts would calm down, so as to facilitate bringing aid to those at least tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people trapped in that enclave. Now, hopefully, those rebels would come to their senses. We understand now that they have lost everything that they have gained, and in fact, they are losing a little bit more. And the army is pushing deep inside their territory, currently, that is. And let's hope that that would allow them, to rethink their position and say, well, okay, let's just stop and focus on humanitarian things.
All right, Ammar Waqqaf joining us live from Geneva. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.